When one door closes,
another one opens.
Welcome to the True North Lifestyle Podcast.
All right, I'm Joe. I'm hanging out today with a couple of buddies. Got old Rick Labby here.
howdy.
And Jeff Paradis.
Oh, my God.
He can't even look over this way without cracking a smile.
I got to put my podcast voice on.
Yeah.
Hey, how you doing?
Is it Paradis or Paradis?
You know,
I think it's Paradise.
Yeah, it's Paradis. Paradis. Paradise, whatever.
All right.
It's all good. Just don't call me late for dinner.
So, today, Jeff came up from New Hampshire. I'm sure that anyone that follows the True North lifestyle has seen Jeff's antics.
Yeah, and on my videos.
I'll never forget the first video we put out and the first cut we got. That was pretty good.
Which
Jeff
one?
being Jeff.
Yeah.
Trying to get everyone to watch the first video.
Was that the toe dragger? Or?
No. Oh, no.
We haven't showed that one.
That was a funny one, too. So anyway, today we're going to talk a little bit just about what's been going on, what we've been up to since the last time we got together. But
Yeah.
I thought it'd be kind of fun to just go back and talk about how we all got into the outdoors and the beginning days of our hunting. And Jeff didn't get the memo to turn his phone off, but
I see that. Yeah.
we're going to leave that in. That way it makes him look bad.
That's
We didn't mention Bad Lee's not here. He didn't show up.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's going to get scolded.
Yeah, he overslept this morning.
Yeah, I called him at like 10:30, and he's like, I'm just getting out of bed.
Yeah.
At 10:30 in the morning?
I guarantee he's out on Rangeley Lake fishing right now.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's where he is.
Catching 5-pound salmon.
So
it's all right.
we just learned this morning I've got
it.
to call him the night before and remind him. So anyway, yeah, Jeff is going to take Bad Lee's spot today.
You.
Can you do that?
I don't. I can't fill those shoes.
Yeah.
There's no
I don't
way.
think any of us can.
No.
So,
Can't do it.
but anyway, I guess, Jeff, let's start just a little bit telling everyone about yourself, where you live, what you're all about.
What? Oh, I got to talk about myself? Oh, God, this is going to be difficult. Well, I mean, of course, I live in New Hampshire, in southern New Hampshire, a little town called Epsom. And my wife and I lived there. We built a house a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I think. I used to live in Nottingham. Grew up in Plastow, which is down by the Mass border. Then we grew up there. And then we kind of relocated. We wanted the girls. Plastow started growing into what it is today. So as it was growing, we wanted to get the girls back into a country setting. So we decided to move north, which is a little town in Nottingham, which is a town that, as a young boy, when I was competing in archery, a guy that taught me archery, George Trefethrin, lived in Nottingham. And I've always liked it, so I hunted up there when I was a young kid, bow hunted. And a piece of property came for sale up there, and we decided to buy some land up there and, pick up roots and move up there. And it was probably the best thing we ever did for the girls, especially my daughter, my oldest daughter. Met her husband, which Cody is just an amazing man. Well, you understand. Well, you guys understand when you have a son-in-law that is.
Oh yeah.
As a dad with girls, there's nothing better than that. You kind of like you pass the torch. You're relieved that you have something like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
They become the protector and provider after that.
Yeah,
That's
you
it.
kind of wash your hands, you know. It's like, and it's comforting. So, but yeah, so I grew up. We ended up moving up there. Then we stayed there for 25 years. Then we had just recently moved, bought some property up in Epsom. One of the first settled properties in the town of Epsom. Sue found some land up there, and we decided we'd move up there because I had one of my best friends lived up in Epsom with Sean, and he recently passed away. And we wanted to be closer to them, you know. And we did, so we moved up there. Oh, sorry, I got to get closer to the mic, huh? Yeah.
You'll get used to it.
Yeah.
So, I've been down to your house.
Yeah.
A couple times. Pretty awesome down there. Nice setup.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
We love
Deer
it.
and turkey out the back, and
Oh yeah, I don't tell too many people that.
well, we just did. So.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah, we gave it up.
Yeah.
Speaking of turkey, you've been killing a couple, haven't you?
I've been
Trying?
No, I've been trying, but just there's a big bird kicking around. My grandson shot a 26-pounder. We got him on that one, and I think Sue shot a 25-pounder. But there's a big bird that's been kicking around, and I've been after him, and I just haven't connected with him.
Yeah.
But I saw him preseason. He's just, he's so big that you can't even see his knees because his feathers hang down so low. He's just a big bird, and I've been kind of after him.
Yeah.
Been eating good.
Yeah, he's definitely been eating good. But,
Well, you got farmland around you?
yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of farm ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the Midwest term, right? Ground.
Ground, yeah. But I don't hunt around there. I mean, I don't really hunt too much around there, but
You been fishing at all?
I have. I just got my boat done. I was getting ready. I was going to come up actually this way. I wanted to start off at Umbagog Lake because I like that lake up there a lot.
Yeah, it's
Then
good lake.
I want to transition, maybe get up to Rick's place, and I like fishing Maine more so than New Hampshire. I think Maine has a lot more to offer as far as lakes and a variety. And Sue and I, a couple of years ago, we dragged the boat all the way up there. We took that boat way out to Penobscot Lake, out there at the dam.
Yeah.
And I like that, things like that. You get on those remote areas, and you get to spend the whole day out on a big lake like that, and there's nobody on there, which I thought that was pretty cool.
It's kind of the funny thing about Parlin is it's
Yeah.
right here next to the road. Everyone knows about it. Fishing's good,
Yeah.
but no one ever fishes it.
Yeah,
very, very little. Which
Yeah.
I will say one thing that I truly think this day and age, the fishing in Maine is better than I've almost ever seen it in my life as far as the salmon fishing in Sebago, Moosehead. Moosehead now, the salmon are like footballs in there, and you know, they're a little harder to catch because I think there's so much bait fish now, but finally the states finally got it figured out, and we're starting to get a really good fishery. So, you know, we catch bigger fish now than we have in a long time ever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
you've been fishing a lot.
Yeah, not as much as I want to. If I could retire, I'd fish all the time. But, yeah, weekends. Yeah, I don't know. Nancy and I probably boated 140 salmon this year and probably more brook trout than that, mostly on the river, brookies. But, yeah, pretty good season.
We had a good
so
time
far.
last weekend.
Yeah, you
Jason
and
Del
Jason.
Plazo and his son came up, and
Yeah.
I think we're going to have a little video from that
Yeah.
here soon. Jason did some filming, which the fishing, we didn't catch many fish. I think. Well, it was all about Cole anyway.
We let Cole
I
catch
think
them all.
he caught everything here at Parlin too, but the only time he didn't is when there was fish on 2 or 3 rods, so we had to pick up the slack and reel them in. But the fishing wasn't great, but man, what a day on the lake it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
Over on
temperature?
Moosehead, it was a great day.
Temperature was perfect. It was
Yeah, just being around Jason is incredible.
yeah.
He's like that surfer hippie dude. Hey man, you know. He's such
Yeah.
a good guy.
Yeah, he's fun, and he's whatever he gets into, he's pretty knowledgeable
Oh,
about.
yeah.
So he was the videographer guy that day.
Yeah.
So we were flying a drone around and getting, which
Yeah.
I think is going to be pretty neat. It was the lake was just like glass.
Yeah.
And
Oh, yeah.
Rick's got it. Have you seen his boat in person yet?
When I was up at his house there, I went in the garage and saw his boat. What a
nice boat.
Beautiful boat.
They ought to put you on the sales team for that company,
Yeah.
Rick.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea if they'd start sending some checks my way.
Yeah.
As much
Yeah.
promoting of it you've done. That's a great boat, though, man. If you're going to be on a lake like Moosehead.
That is the best for in Maine. That is the best, most comfortable, spacious, best handling fishing boat I've ever been on or owned.
Yeah.
Duckworth, 21 foot.
Yeah, it is a nice boat,
Yeah.
without a doubt.
Yeah.
So then we came back over Saturday, the day after, and I borrowed Rick's Parlin boat, and we took that out. And
Yep.
that's not like the Duckworth, but it gets the job done here in Parlin.
Oh yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
good boat. And
Yeah. Family boat.
we didn't even count them. I mean, we caught so many trout.
Yeah.
We didn't.
It's
It was just
awesome.
one of those days, you know.
Out
Some
here?
days, yeah.
Yeah.
Some days, it's like anywhere else, you know.
Yeah.
It's
Can't buy a bite.
It's
but,
flies only.
yeah, casting or trolling. But it was.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
what I want to do. A fly
Yeah.
fishing.
We talked about the salmon chop all day, Rick.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
We went.
Yeah.
We went from fishing on glassy water to white
Yeah.
caps the next day, and I'd much rather take the white caps as far as the fishing goes.
Salmon
because-
fishing's always better with a chop. We call it a salmon chop, you know. So it's always better with a chop. Yeah.
But I think we caught one salmon that day, and the rest brook trout. But
Yeah.
it's nice. I mean, I've been fishing this lake since I was a little kid, and they stock it every year, but you still have the wild ones in here too that you can every
yeah.
once in a while you catch.
Yeah.
But the size was what I was surprised about. I mean, we were catching 13, 14 inches, which for
Yeah. That's
for
nice
Marlin's
trout. That's not bad
super
at all.
common. And so anyway, it's been good. And of course, we had just coming out of shed season, which I've heard there was. I went out some. I've heard there was quite a lot of people out this year.
I've been seeing
Shed
the
hunt.
posts everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They're going to be. Pretty soon you're going to be have a license for that, aren't you? Are they talking about
I've
something?
heard different things. I don't know. I mean,
You-
it's like anything else.
You
Once
don't
they-
out west. You don't have a license like Wyoming and Colorado and Montana. You don't need a license to shed hunt,
Mm.
but there's a season.
Yeah. Okay.
And now they just moved it so that non-residents can't shed hunt till I think it's 2 weeks. It's either 10 days or 2 weeks after the residents
yeah.
get their turn. So
Yeah.
which is fair.
Yeah.
Sure.
Sure.
Anyway, yeah. And but yeah, there's no stamp or license.
it's a hard thing to regulate, and I mean, we talked about it on the last one with the roads. I mean, that's the biggest problem you have is that time of year, just staving the roads
Staving
up.
the roads up. Yeah.
But as far as the season, like
What's that?
people are going to be.
What's that stave thing? Is that a Maine thing?
I don't know. Is that a main
Sta-
term, Rick?
sta-
You've been around longer than
sta-
I have.
Jesus, that's been going on since I was born.
Right.
Tearing the roads up.
Jesus,
You understand that better?
Yeah. Yeah, ripping them up.
So-
It's kind of like a Seabrooker thing, isn't it?
I remember that when I first moved to Maine, one of the terms I hadn't heard was chucker block full. Guy told me that the deer's belly was chucker block full.
Chucker block full.
Except he said chucka.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chucka.
I said, what was that word?
Yeah. Joe, can you,
Chucka.
can you
Chucka
say
block full.
can you say rugged rubber baby buggy bumpers?
I can't.
So
Won't even try.
a term we use out in Wyoming is dooryard. Back here in Maine, we go out in the dooryard, and my neighbor Jerry out in Wyoming, he goes, "What did you just say?" A dooryard. He goes, "Where's that?"
My cousin, my
Had to
cousin
explain
from
it.
Georgia, the same thing 25 years ago when he came up here.
Yeah,
He said, "What's a dooryard?"
yeah,
I said, "Dooryard, dooryard."
yeah.
Dooryard.
Dooryard.
But
It's just like a lobster.
anyway, the shed season's, the nice thing about it's a renewable resource. It's always coming back as long as the
Sure,
animals are
yeah.
there. But
Yep.
it would suck to see it get regulated like anything else. You know,
Yeah.
whether it's licenses or closures or anything.
Well, the thing is, if you don't pick them up, right, the animals chew them up anyway, or they just they decompose over time. So unless you get a really fresh brown one,
Yeah.
Nobody wants a 2-year-old bleached out shed that's weather cracked.
I don't know. Some guys will lug those out quite a ways.
They will.
Depending on how many they found.
Yeah.
But
I hung a lot of them in trees, deer hunting over the years that I saw and just hung it in a tree.
I saw someone post online the other day that look at this. It was a white shed that was hanging in a tree. This one's pretty cool. He lost it right in the tree. And it didn't take long for all the commenters to educate him that someone said it there.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many anyone that finds them, if they're white or whatever, that's been out there a while, you kind of hang them in a tree. But so we wanted to talk about today kind of where our hunting started. I know for us with our own kids, I know we got them out just as young as we could and and expose them to it. But I didn't grow up that way. I had to kind of find it on my own. What about you, Rick?
Oh, I grew up hunting and fishing, mostly fishing from the time I could walk with my mother mostly. And hunting kind of started for me when I was 7 years old. And Dick Drysdale, a lot of people heard of Dick Drysdale. He used to be a teacher in Winslow, Maine, and he's a friend of my grandfather's and moved in next door to a camp. Him and his wife moved up here from San Marcos, Texas, where he went to college, and he had hounds. Lucky for me, because I never would have got into hound hunting, and that's been one of the greatest loves of my life is hunting with hounds. And Dick had hounds, and so when I was 7 years old, he invited me coon hunting with him because he didn't know anybody. So I started coon hunting with him at 7 years old, and of course anybody that knows me, I'll do anything possible that an adult would do back at that age. And I was climbing trees, 100-foot tall pine trees, and shooting coons out. And then when I was 10, we started deer hunting together with Dick, and Dad started deer hunting with us. And so nobody in my family except my grandfather really hunted till I came along. And my grandfather always, lugged me around to the hunting camp and all that stuff. And so I got started at a young age and fished with my mother growing up, mostly trout fishing for brooks and streams up around, Bingham and Pleasant Ridge and Caratunk and all that area. And we had a bunch of camps over the years on different trout ponds and lakes around the state. And I think Nancy and I have 3 camps now, but I love camps, going to camps and all that. And then we built my camp in Jackman after her and I get married. When I was 21 or 2, we got married, and so we built that in there and on the Hardscrubber Road. And I spent my whole life deer hunting in there, and I didn't hunt much down home really, mostly up in the North Country here. So I started learning the mountains, and probably my biggest influence was the Benoits, and Lanny was always my biggest influencer, I'd say, over the years. I didn't really know him back then, but I read and watched everything. Of course, we didn't have all this social media back then we did now, but every time a magazine come out with him in it, I read it 5 times, and so he was just an influence. I wanted to be like him, wanted to be a great deer hunter like him.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of my driving force to, be that style of hunter, just his tracking. So that's kind of how I got into tracking, is I knew at a young age he could do it, and that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to learn it. So
was that in the 80s then?
Yeah, that was in the 80s. Yeah. I shot my first buck when I shot my first buck down around Smithfield when I was 13 years old, 1978, I think. And with me and Dick and my dad, and down off the railroad tracks in Smithfield, and 8-point buck. And then the next year after that, I shot another 8-point buck down there, and I shot. And then it was, I think, my 3rd or 4th year, I shot a 200-pounder. Then when I was 19, I shot one weighed 241, and I tracked him on snow all day for 8 hours in a snowstorm. And it was the last day of rifle season in November, and we had a major snowstorm, so school was canceled. In 19, I was still in high school at 19, and of course I skipped a lot of school in high school because of snowstorms and even good days after snowstorms.
So was this down south or up here?
Down south.
Okay.
So my first buck I ever tracked what was actually a 4-pointer. Then I killed the next year. I killed that big 8-pointer, weighed 241, and that was my biggest buck for years. And then I finally killed one up here that dressed out 250, and but yeah. And then once I moved up here, I just started tracking, and once I got in these mountains up north here, there was no going back. I loved hunting up here.
Yeah, and I would say it seems like most guys that hunted the 80s and 90s up here.
Yeah,
that was the heyday.
Lanny and I just saw Lanny Saturday night, and he had a seminar he did down at Pine Grove Lodge with Bob Howe there, and we were talking to all the guys that were there about how many deer and how great the deer hunting was, and the age structure back then, there was, it was, you were looking for deer that were 8, 9, 10 years old. Well, you don't hardly see that anymore. It's just starting to come around now. I think there's probably 6, 7-year-old deer that have made it, and we've had easy enough winters, but back then they were everywhere. I mean, there was so many big bucks, and I mean, you'd see and track multiple bucks a day. So the hunting was twice as good, if not more, than what it is now back then, and just easier to see deer and whatever.
Yeah, less roads too, which I think probably made it, for the guys that wanted to get back in there, it was big tracks.
Right, bigger pieces of woods. And the other thing is they were building brand new roads every year, which now they're not. The roads are all established. So building brand new roads every year, so you get into them brand new pieces of woods that were 8, 10 miles, then brand new roads would go in, and you had deer that had never even seen a man. And those deer, they had little yards everywhere up here in all this country, and they just stayed there all year, and there was no coyotes back then either. Yeah. So, yeah, the age structure of those big deer was there, and it was pretty easy to kill a deer that weighed 220 to 240. I killed a lot of them, and I was just consistent, and I stayed after them day after day after day after day till I finally killed them. And, I didn't know nothing back then. I was just chasing them all day long, and then I got smarter as I got older and learned how to second guess and what move to make next and what the deer was going to do next. And so I don't travel nowhere near as far anymore when I kill one. Thank God. The 20-mile days.
So when you were a teenager, you were basically heading out. Once you could drive, it was
once I
could, on.
Yeah. When I was probably 17, I can remember driving. I had a Toyota SR5 Toyota pickup, and I used to drive to Moosehead and ice fish all by myself. I'd drive right out between Farm Island and Kineo out from the Birches. It was plowed back then, and of course we had more ice than we do now. But I'd drive up, and usually by 9, 10 o'clock I'd have my limit and drive all the way back home at 17 years old. So I was always wicked adventurous. I was always heading somewhere different in the state all the time, every day. It never bothered me how far I had to drive if I could have good hunting or fishing.
Some things never change.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Now I'm going further west.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
yeah, that's good. It's being up here was definitely obviously an advantage for you as opposed to
and I learned like 90% of the country up here. I learned with it from three things. I learned it from a Jeep, because you could go anywhere with a Jeep back then. It was legal, and not like it is now. And any logging road, any skidded twitch trail, we used to go climb mountains just for fun. And being on a buck track, just learning all the spots and all these little, knobs and little bogs and little holes that these big bucks were in. And then snowmobile. I learned so much country because, you put 100 miles a day on a snowmobile, and you learn the mountain ranges really fast, and all the little crannies and nooks and all that, and shed hunting back then.
Oh, the shed hunting must have been good then.
Yeah, I can remember the best one I ever remember was right up behind my camp, in Coburn one day, and I come up around the trail there, and back then I could come up on a Monday or a Tuesday, take a track out with my sled, and come back 2 to 3 days later, and not one snowmobile track had been on it. and you just pick the moose horns up where you'd been because they'd go walk that trail because it was easier. I come up around the corner one day and I counted 7 sheds in a row laying in one spot. I could see all 7 of them, and it was just beat down from alder to alder where those moose had been pushing each other all night.
Yep.
And all those sheds were laying right there. Yeah. I was sitting on them going
You
back
still
to
see a
camp.
lot of that pushing, but you don't find 7 sheds, that's for sure.
No, not anymore. No.
What about you, Jeff? When did you start
Oh,
getting into the outdoors? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Plastow.
Oh, so you were actually from a young age you were in Plastow.
Yeah. And like Rick, I mean, I started when I was, I think I was started when I was 7, 8 years old. But I was always behind the house. We had big woods behind the house, and I was always milling around. I remember the first year my mom bought me a Daisy Red Ryder. And boy,
That was my first one too.
first gun I ever had, and it was kind of like the door opened up, you know. It was
You love the woods.
God dang it, boy! I'll tell you what, I had that hook down. Any chickadee around was like, I was on them.
Yeah.
Then I graduated to squirrels, you know, something bigger. They were a little harder to kill because I had to shoot more bullets at them.
Well, the Red Ryder was not nearly as powerful as the 760 pump.
Yeah.
And I don't mean the Remington.
No, my mom hunted, and that's where I got. There was 2 people I got my inspiration from. Was my mom. That's her right there. There's a picture. I think I was 13 when I shot that buck, and that's pretty cool.
That was your first buck?
That was my first buck at 13, and
Yeah,
I walked
wow.
up behind it, and shot it in the back of the head. So, but then there was an old boy in town. His name was Freddie Eli, and he was just one of those guys that you didn't hear much about, but every year he would shoot monsters, and I knew it, and I just had to gravitate near him. And finally, just one year, I ended up talking to him. He went to a bow competition, and I just knew him for the longest time. And finally, I got to be pretty good friends with him. And I learned a lot of things from him. And I asked him, certain things. Well, how do you kill all those big bucks, Freddie? He goes, well, Jeff, it just takes patience. That's it. He said, you just got to get in the woods. You got to work hard at it, so on and so forth. And he was pretty much an inspiration for me. But what really inspires me is the unknown guys. The guys that are just, you don't know anything about. The guys you don't see them on social media a lot. Every once in a while you'll see them here and there. Those guys, and to this day, the guys that inspire me. Because they're unknown, they're unforeseen, but their passion, their drive to do what they do is like nothing, no other. Like my buddy, Brian Purington, he's one. You see him on Facebook once in a while. His drive and motivation to hunt and just the love of it is it's incredible. And he doesn't have to shoot big animals. He just loves to hunt. Adam Badger, guys like that. He's just loves turkey hunting.
He's the turkey king, man.
Yeah. And just listen to some of the stuff he does and stuff like that. And those guys like that, just kind of an inspiration, And to this day, I mean, I just like.
So you started out, obviously hunting down around that area when you were younger.
But I graduated up, When I started going up north, I started working in the plumbing industry. My friends worked for a guy named Cliffy Center. He was a big game hunter, right? Big game hunter. He had a place up in Wentworth location so he would invite us up there to go hunting at his camp. In Wentworth location is just on the west side of Umbagog Lake. So when I first got up there and I started hunting, it was like I've never been around anything like that because I was so used to hunting small woods. Bow hunting was my thing. That's all I did was bow hunt. I didn't gun hunt hardly at all. But when I started going to Wentworth location, started hovering around that area, all around Umbagog Lake, Dustin Mountain. I mean, Rick and I think you and Neil were up there not too long ago, and you mentioned Dustin Mountain. I said, "Oh, geez, that's my old stomping grounds." And that's way back before the roads were in.
Yeah,
we used to a little place called the Brown Owl, right on 16, just on the inlet side of the Umbagog Lake. It was a guy from Bob Brad was his name. He owned the little store there. Right across there was a series of 3 or 4 camps. And behind that camp was an old logging road. And we used to take Cliffy's Ford Bronco 400, and we used to hoof all the way up to the top to that mountain, and we used to hunt up there. We shot some pretty nice deer up there, but nobody went in there. Nobody would go in the backcountry. That was before GPSs. All we had was compasses. But like Rick would say, we knew the woods. We knew that where we were going, what we could do, and we were pretty successful up there. So I always liked hunting up there, And it was a lot of fun. And you start graduating out, you start learning. But then I didn't really know what I was doing, so to speak. I just hunted hard, like Rick was saying. You just go to town.
Right, you just put the time in.
You put the time in, you're chasing, whatever it took. Yep. I mean, I would drag stands out in the middle of nowhere, And just because I found a run when I was out there hiking around, and I'd go out there and I'd hike out there. I mean, I would put a tent, stay in a tent and just hit that stand, keep hitting that stand, Didn't really know what I was doing, didn't really understand deer movement at that point. I just knew that I had to be out there, and I had to. This was a hot spot, and we all have that feeling on the back of our necks when we get to those spots that that's the spot you want to be in, But I didn't really start learning deer habit, deer movement until I started traveling. That's when it all came together.
Right, it's like you're putting all that time in when you're younger, just thousands, hundreds of hours, and just all over the woods, and just hunting hard, and you really don't know the whole game, and then all of a sudden it's like you wake up one day and it all comes together.
Light bulb kicks on.
Yeah, and then you start killing bigger deer and more deer, having more encounters. Right,
I would spend 3, 4. I mean, hunting in New Hampshire wasn't the easiest thing to do.
No, a lot of competition.
There was competition. There wasn't a lot of deer around. There were, but there weren't. Especially bow hunting.
Yeah.
That was a difficult. Not a lot of people bow hunted. It was still kind of new, innovative. A lot of old technology, so on and so forth. But I remember logging hours in on stands, 300-400 hours, just to see 2 or 3 deer, and that was long, and it was crazy.
Wow!
But
were you shooting? Were you shooting bigger deer at that point, or were you shooting the first legal deer that came by at that point?
Well, I graduated over time. I started graduating when I started waiting. I started holding off and waiting. You have to learn it. It's really it's hard to do, but you have to pass in order to move up the ladder. I didn't like it, but I did. I would pass up. When you're sitting there 300-400 hours in a tree stand and you're seeing, maybe 5, 6, 9 deer maybe, and you're passing on a 110-inch, buck or whatever, even a 120, that's hard.
Yeah.
It's kind of, you remember them, but when I started passing, when I really started passing, when I started like when I was when I got to travel my first hunt, and my Cliffy that I worked for, they invited me on my first hunt was in South Carolina. I've never flown on a plane. I've never been anywhere in the country other than New Hampshire, Maine, and Massachusetts, and that's the only place I've ever been hunting. I didn't know anything else. I just knew that being in New England, I hunted hard and I was dedicated, and it was definitely hard hunting.
Yeah.
When I went to South Carolina, now I had the being from that, in that atmosphere all the time, learning how to hunt, being hard driven, and not seeing a lot of deer. And you hear the stories of other states where they had a lot of deer, and you just you looked at it and go, that's like shooting fish in a barrel, It didn't really sit well with me, until I started traveling. When I went to that South Carolina, and I met my buddy Kelly down there, and the first day I saw like 9 deer in the first 4 hours, and I said, "Are you kidding me?" And I just couldn't believe it. And I was mesmerized. I said, this is just crazy. I mean, I spent, a month back home to see the
Right.
same deer.
Same idea, right.
Yeah. And, after that, I was just kind of hooked. I hated flying. I'll tell you what, I was scared. I scared to death of flying.
Really?
Yeah, I can ask my wife. I mean, I remember that Bobby and Cliffy flew all over the world. Bobby sent a Cliffy's brother, his big game head. He's probably shot everything in the world other than 3 species, and Cliffy was probably right behind him. Just had massive trophy rooms. They were just trophy hunters, but they weren't hunters, They just paid a lot of money to go kill things, but there was a difference. I noticed a difference with those guys.
Yep.
Between real hunters, like guys like us that work at it, that really study.
Yeah.
But I remember when I when I got on the plane, I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew I had to go there if I wanted to go hunting.
I think that's a huge intimidation to a lot of guys, is getting on a plane and flying somewhere else and stepping off going, what's next? And now, I've done it for so many years.
Yeah.
You've done it. Joe's done it.
Yeah.
It's like second nature to us now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is.
I haven't done a lot of deer hunting elsewhere.
Yeah.
I go out for
Yeah, but
moose
you've been to
hunting, but-
Alaska moose hunting, all that.
Yeah,
It's
it's different. Yeah,
But
it's not that I don't want to. I'm hoping to go to Iowa this year, and I've been to Saskatchewan and Ontario, but I mean, you guys are 3-4 trips a year. You're hard to keep up with.
But you really learn. You learn habits. You really learn the deer. And that was the biggest eye opener for me, because I saw so many deer.
right.
I was watching them do things that I've never seen them do before.
Yeah, you couldn't learn the habits your entire
No.
life in Maine, what you could learn in 1 week out west.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just to see a mature whitetail buck, 150, 160 inch, doing the things that he did, it just blew my mind. It was like I couldn't believe it. It was like being a movie. So then you started learning, but what you already have, right, is prior to that is you have all your drive and your energy already. You've built all that up for all the time that you've hunted in the woods in New England, because we hunt like no other around it. Where our hunting up here is so tough in a lot of cases that we're built around that toughness, and you don't even really recognize that, because we're driven. We do things that no other guys do. I'm not gonna say no other guys, but we do. Our drive is totally different. And
No, you are right, though, because I can remember years ago going to Saskatchewan, and I'd tell my tracking stories, how I tracked a buck, 18 miles in a day, and then we drug him out 2 miles, and they'd look at you like, are you crazy? You're nuts?
Yeah.
For a deer, and
even setting up deer, trying to figure them out and stuff like that. My buddies in Illinois, I mean, God love them. They're great guys. When we first started going down there, I've been going down there for 30 years, and they would wait for me to come down there, because I would always shoot the biggest buck, and the mature bucks, and they would wait, and they would come talk to me after, and they would kind of pry me for information, and I didn't figure it out for quite a few years, like 5 years after, And I said, why you guys keep pumping me for information? He goes, well, Jeff, we're learning from you. You always shoot the biggest bucks. We want to know where to go, what to do. I says, well.
So you were going out there setting all your own stands and everything?
Yeah.
You know what? Another thing I want to bring this up too is, like, Saskatchewan was basically the turning point for me to shooting bigger deer, because you learned all those habits because you learned to pass up.
That's right.
130, 140 inch bucks, because you'd already gone to that point in your life, and you wanted to, graduate to bigger deer and just wait and shoot bigger deer. That was, and so by doing that, you didn't shoot the first buck that came in that was 130, 140 inches, so you got to watch them all day long. Sometimes a week straight for that 160, 170 would walk in.
Well, I'll give you a perspective of someone that doesn't hunt out there a lot, is that my biggest concern anytime I've hunted a place like that is shooting one that's I should pass on, but I don't, because you're not used to seeing them.
Yeah.
And if you don't see deer like that all the time,
it's
I mean,
trust me,
passing on a 130 inch deer, I mean,
it's
never
tough.
in my life
Right.
would I do
It's
that.
tough.
Well,
And so you almost and it's different too. I mean, like, Ontario is like hunting here, but Saskatchewan is baited, so it's a whole different deal. I mean, you have the ability to sit there and watch one come in and think about it, but that was my biggest concern, is pulling the trigger on one and then having everyone go, oh yeah, he would have been good in a couple of years,
right?
Yeah, but if I like the deer and I pull the trigger on it, then I'm good with it. So it doesn't matter.
That's right. That's
it's
exactly
your choice, right?
Exact. Your tag. You shoot what you want. Now, I mean, I today, it's a feeling for me. It's I don't have to shoot the biggest buck in the woods. It just it's about the day. It's about the journey and stuff like that. That's how I look at it today.
Yeah.
I just because, like, Rick shoots 100 and 200 inch deer continuously, and I shoot 130 inch
200
deer.
continuously might be a stretch, but
I know.
He shoots some big ones.
But I enjoy guys that shoot what they want to shoot, and I love seeing the smiles and
right. Everybody has to shoot a deer that makes them happy.
That's right.
And I don't judge anybody. I'm just as happy if that guy shot a 130 inch buck and he's wicked excited and happy about it. I'm happy for him. So you mentioned me shooting big bucks every trip, but I don't shoot a big buck every trip.
No,
but I do shoot. So what deer I do shoot, I got like I kind of gauge it where I go. Okay.
Yeah.
So wherever I hunt, I kind of look at what's there for deer, what caliber deer. So if a 150 inch deer is a trophy where I'm going to go hunt, and I see a 150, I'm probably going to shoot.
Yeah,
him.
sure.
But normally, like, I try to set it at 160 nowadays.
Yeah.
So a lot of trips I go on, I come home empty-handed. I don't even shoot a deer. And that's fine, because I got the experience to hunt the land. Hunting the land is, like, the best experience. Hunting a different place and getting to hunt the land and see the terrain and seeing out west, because there's so much to see out west. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
You can't see it in 10 lifetimes. But so, and when I do kill a deer, I'm pretty satisfied with it, because I put the time in. I waited for that buck, and that was just my own personal thing. So it's not more of I shot a bigger deer than you. That's just and I mount every big buck I shoot, because I can look at them on the wall, and that's a memory. You got the same thing.
Yeah,
I mean, you got a ton of mounts, and you can sit in your living room at night, or I can walk in my game room, and I can remember every single story, every detail of every buck on the wall.
Yep.
Yeah.
I do believe there's there's a difference between the archery guys and the gun hunting guys when it comes to trophy classification or trophies. I call it the 30-300 rule, so to speak. Anybody with a rifle is going to try to take a shot at an animal at 300 yards. In your trophy, you have that window that enables you to do that. If you see a 180-inch buck out there at 250 yards, 200 yards, anybody's gonna take a shot at him.
Yeah.
But a guy with a bow and arrow is a 30-yard, 40 yards is probably the tops for me. Is if I see that deer at a that 180-inch deer way out at 100 yards, I'm not taking a shot at him.
No, God.
But if a 130, 140-inch deer with a bow and arrow walks by me, well, that's a trophy,
with a bow.
With a bow and arrow.
Yeah.
So there is kind of I don't judge guys that shoot. I don't judge guys differently that way. Some guys do, but I don't, and I judge everybody the same. Is I guess what I'm trying to say is.
Yeah, I mean it's hey, look, everyone's got their, and we using the term trophy. I always look at it as, like going back to what Rick said. It's the mature buck that represents the area. It's maturity that you're after because you're trying to outwit the smartest one.
Well, sometimes the genetics in some areas, you just like up here. You're not going to grow a 160, 180-inch deer here in Jackman, Maine. That maybe one every 5 years shows up, somebody kills, and you go, what the heck was that? But so, I don't hunt horns up here. I hunt weight. When I go out west, I hunt horns. And
that's kind of funny you say that because it's the only place in the country that cares about weight.
Right, it is New England. Yeah,
I don't care about weight. I'm the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Well, it was growing up in Florida. Obviously, it's a whole different everything about it. Just the way I started hunting and everything was completely different than up here because it was off of machinery.
Yeah,
and you don't have to hunt that way down there. You can hunt conventional, but. I got into airboats when I was, actually before I even got into airboats, I had some friends of my dad. I mean, at that time I was ate up with fishing. Like I bass fished from the time.
I didn't know that about you till the other day you were talking about it.
Oh my God, I lived for it every single day. My buddy Brian and I, we were from probably 12 years old, and I lived on a golf course at that time, and so. Every single day we were out bass fishing in this golf course. It was right on the edge of the Everglades, so I mean it was really good bass fishing. I mean we would catch 3 to 5 pounders all the time, and so it was just a natural graduation when I, like around 15 I think it was, and my dad had deer hunted the Everglades and everything years prior to that, but he was always working in those days and he didn't hunt at all. So when I was 15, he was telling me the stories about when they used to hunt off the glade buggies. And I talked about it a little bit before, but the vehicles we hunted off of, we called them full tracks. And they're basically a big track vehicle that are all custom built for the Everglades. And it's a whole scene down there. But the hunting off them is not as popular as it used to be, but it was a big deal, like in the 60s,
I can
70s
remember
days.
that. Right. I can remember it. Yeah.
It was
hearing about it
completely addictive.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and a lot of people, you can't compare it to tracking a deer. It's not the same thing. The only thing I say is it's being in the outdoors.
That was the thing in
Florida
where you grew up.
Yeah. A lot of people would watch it and people that hunt up here and that's unsporting or whatever, but it's just the way you hunt there. It's the way it is. It's no different than hunting deer with hounds down there.
Right, exactly, right.
But so when I was 15, my dad asked a couple old buddies of his that still had a full track and hunted all the time if they'd take me out. So you'd stand in shooting towers, the guys with the shotguns would, so I didn't have a gun, and it was Philip Lloyd and Ricky Earl were the two guys that took me. Ricky's over in the other tower with a shotgun, and I think I'm along just for the ride to watch this happen. And we jumped up a buck, and the way it works there is you run the sawgrass, and you basically are just idling around pretty slow, and when the deer jumps up, someone spots it, and that's when all chaos ensues. There he goes, there he goes, there he goes, and everyone's buck, 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 and everyone's hollering. So we're chasing this, and I'm 15 years old. I'm holding on, and I'm just smile from ear to ear.
How fast do them buggies go?
So when you're chasing a deer, you're probably typically running about, between 25 and 45 mile an hour.
Wow.
The last one that I built, we built it really light and we built it for speed. We put a Chevy ZZ4 crate motor in it.
Jeez.
It was 300. That was 400 horse in that one.
Guys wear helmets?
No. No, if you need a helmet, you're in, you need more than a helmet if you're
no beaver
rolling
dams.
over. No, so that one ran 62 miles an hour. That one would run.
Holy
And we did
cow.
that by GPS back then.
Wow.
Yeah, in the late 90s. So anyway, we're chasing this. There was a spike, and we're chasing this deer, and it's not as easy as it seems. I mean, they're darting through the grass. It's like hunting rabbits in the grass or something. And he pulls up the gun, getting ready to shoot, and he looks over at me and he just hands me the shotgun. And it was like boom, 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 boom. I unloaded it and killed the deer.
Yeah, that was it right there.
Absolutely hooked right there.
Yeah.
I've never missed a deer season since then. And I mean, I was sick for it. I built my first airboat when I was 19. And that was my way to get out there, and it was from fishing and frogging, deer hunting, all of it. I was in the Everglades all the time. And so then I was killing deer off and the only thing that sucks about the whole vehicle hunt, you used to be able to, the limit was 5 deer a day, no limit on the season. And
5 a day.
Yeah, and the Everglades had the amount of deer that, I mean, a typical opening morning, every buggy had 3, 4, 5 bucks hanging from it.
Wow.
Because they were just, there's that many of them. Yeah. But what happened in the late 70s, the government was, because they built all the levee system down there in the 40s, the Army Corps of Engineers did, and they were doing it to divert the water flow, dry the Everglades up so that the sugarcane industry could start growing sugarcane there. And that, as it always does when you mess with the ecosystem, it destroyed the Everglades.
Right.
So in the late 70s, they had a big high water event that put all the deer, I mean, thousands of deer were dying because they were drowning, getting hoof rot and everything. So the state, in their infinite wisdom, had what they called the mercy hunt. Well, you can imagine what the anti-hunters did when they had the mercy hunt, and everyone's out there on airboats and buggies, and it was basically the deer are going to die anyway, so kill them all. So, so in the 80s, when I was in the late 80s is when I was really getting into it. It was down to a quota system, so they give you 1 tag per vehicle. Yeah. And so you wanted to make your season count. You did what, like you talked about, you passed on deer and everything to keep your season going. But, I was hunting. I had my airboat then and would always get a tag. So we'd hunt the airboat hunt. And then I built a couple full tracks and we did that. So that was my, and then even before those seasons, once I got bitten by the bug, I was dragging, like what you were talking about, dragging ladder stands. I couldn't buy a ladder stand, but I was taking a 12-foot ladder off the job site at my dad's and dragging it out in the Everglades.
Yeah. Right.
And I mean,
Where'd
literally hunting off of a ladder. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was probably, I don't think
Half
it was
a
as
40
calm as that when you asked me, Rick.
Where's the other half of the 40-footer? I don't know, Dad.
So yeah, I mean, and if you saw a deer, it was like, especially like hunting, because we were bow hunting. I was literally bow hunting off of a Warner 12-foot ladder out in the middle of the Everglades, you know?
Yeah.
Hey, you had to do what you had to do.
And I mean, and I found my buddy Chris, who we're still best friends to this day. He was on my first trip to Alaska with me. Him and I together, I mean, he was the same way.
Yeah.
And, except when he was younger, he lived in an area where they actually killed deer. But so it was just, people always talk about being addicted to the hunting and the outdoors.
Yeah.
I was just sick with it. Like that was the only thing that mattered.
Yeah.
Any spare time I had, I was going, whether it was fishing or hunting. And then because we had, ever since I was, because I was young when I grew up in Maine, so we had the camp up here. So, whenever I was up here, it was always the summer. So I was fishing a lot. But I never, aside from a couple little bird hunting trips, I never really got to hunt up here until it was like the mid-'90s. I started. I came up a couple times and was sitting, and then in the late 90s when I started.
So
tracking.
that guy that handed you that gun that day was basically the turning point for you.
That was the turning point. But I had a friend of mine, Junior Hill, and he was he was an Everglades Florida cracker, like right. I mean, as Florida cracker as they come, and he was born in 1932, so he was much older than me. You know, I think he was in his 60s when I started hunting with him, but he was my influence because I mean I think I met him when I was about 18, and he saw my passion for it, and I think that's why he kind of took me under his wing, and I mean, he let me build my airboat at his house, you know, out in his shop out back. And I mean, when I say shop, I mean like a concrete slab with a little bit of shade, so it'll keep you out of the sun.
Right.
And you know, I think I was telling you, Jeff, recently, like I wish I had the drive I had back then to do that stuff. I mean, every night working in the shop till 2:00 in the morning, working on buggies and airboats and all that stuff. And, and I, you know, as you get older, you just naturally lose a little bit of that. But I mean, the drive was just insane to get out there, do anything we had to do to get out in the woods. Yeah. And being down there, it's not like here where you just walk out. You know, it's effort every time you go, and you got to literally fight traffic on 595 or whatever it is to get out to the Everglades. But once you get out there, I mean, that's the wilderness you have there.
Yeah.
But it was, you know, it's like anything. You got to deal with what you got to deal with. You know, you work with what you've got and make the best of it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I wouldn't trade that time down there for anything, but if I ever had to choose between the two, I mean, obviously up here is, you know, for an outdoorsman, it's paradise.
Yeah.
I enjoy New England, but I still like traveling too, you know. I mean, it's
I want to hear
Alaska.
about that some.
But
not Alaska. Because you've been to Africa how many times?
I've only been to Africa once. Yeah.
Once.
I was going to go last year.
There.
I was going to go last year. I won that trip. I was going to go this year, but it was to South Africa, but I don't want to go there right now because there's a lot of turmoil over there. But I went to Zimbabwe, and that was an eye-opener. Holy smoke, you know.
It might keep you if you went over there.
Yeah. I know.
Or worse.
Yeah.
That was an experience. Going to Africa, I just I don't know why I even went. I just Brent, I have a buddy that lives up in Alberta. He's a big guy. He's a big guide, and he's just all over the world. He called me up one day, say, "You interested in going to Africa?" I said, "I guess so. I guess sounds good. I'll go."
Yeah.
And I was gonna go on a Cape Buffalo hunt, and I wanted to bring my bow.
Might as well start at the top.
Yeah. Well, they wouldn't let me. They said, no, you can't bring your bow it was the Zambezi Valley. I said, okay, and I couldn't bring, I had, at that time, I think I was shooting a Huntsman 45 caliber muzzleloader. I couldn't get the powder over there or anything like that, so I wanted to do something traditionally, so the next best thing I had to buy a Pro Hunter, a single shot. So I opted with that, and I went over there.
I had a Pro Hunter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love the gun, thumb hole. It was just a great gun. I bought the 375 H&H barrel and the 300 Win Mag barrel for the small game that I was going to shoot. So
for the small game.
Yeah. Well, the 375, they wanted me to shoot everything with the 375. I goes, oh my God. I said, I don't shoot. That's a big caliber for me. It's like, holy smoke, just about tore my arm off. So
what year was that you went there?
I'm going to say it was the early 2000s. And I had, on the way over, Brett said, hey, listen, there's an opportunity to hunt leopard. Nobody's ever hunted in the Zambezi Valley for leopard in over 10 years. He said, are you interested? And it was really short money. I said, yeah, I'd be interested in that. he goes, okay, I'll see if I can set it up. And he did. He set it all up. So I was the first guy in 10 or 12 years to shoot a leopard in the Zambezi Valley. Of course, I wanted to bring my bow, but they wouldn't let me.
And you probably could have done that with a bow.
I don't think so. That
No?
was a tough hunt.
That's not out of the tree.
No, you well, when you're over there hunting the leopards, the key with the leopards is that you're hunting small game for your bait. Okay, because you have series of bait, and the Zambezi Valley is pretty big, so we were traveling from dark to dark. And what you would do is along your way, if you saw your game or whatever, you would shoot that. And what they would do is your guides. I had one guide and 3 helpers, and one guy, Garrett was his name, and he was kind of the lead guy for the community. Great guy, spoke broken English, taught me a lot how to speak Shawnee and stuff like that, so it was pretty cool. But along the way you're shooting, your game, whether it be impala or zebra or whatever. And what they would do is they would take half of that and they would put that in the tree. Well, what they would do is they take half and they would drag it down the riverbed or whatever for, a quarter of a mile to create a scent trail.
Yeah.
And they would hang in a tree. And I bet you had 20 sites like that out through the countryside. And we'd just go visit them every single day, see if they've been struck. And the key was if they were struck, then they would get on, they'd look at the track. And this is what I thought was interesting. They knew exactly if it was a female or a male just by the size of the track. And how can you tell? And they would gauge it with a little stick, right? And they would gauge the center pad if it was over, I think it was like 3, I'm not sure the number on it, but it was over a certain length, it would be a male, and under a certain length, it would be a female. Then if they hit the bait, then the males would always start at the center of the chest, and that's where they would feed first, and that was a male right off the bat.
Huh, yeah.
So I spent, I don't know, I was there for quite a while before one finally hit, Then when it hit, it was like, holy smoke, game on. It was
just a waiting game then? You just wait?
Yeah, what you have to do is they finally hit that one particular bait, and so you go back during the day, and what they did is they made a blind out of all the stuff that they could get in the jungle, and there was a little peephole like that. And what they did is we swept. They even made the brushes to sweep out the leaves and anything for like 200-300 yards back up to where we came from, because when you walk down in there, you don't want to make any noise because they're so cagey, sharp animals, right? Yeah,
sharp.
Yeah, that's that New England thing. Pot the Goyard. Yeah, Goyard. So, it took most of the day, because you hunt them just like you hunt deer, like late in the afternoon. That's when they usually show up. So we took most of the day, did all that, made the blind, set everything up. They put a little piece of cloth over the hole where you put your gun. They even made the landing for your gun, so your gun sits there. You don't have to do anything, because the cat will see. They have good eyes that they can see that hole if there's any, shade or color or whatever, because you're probably within 100 yards of that cat. I just remember sitting there, quiet as a mouse. We're not talking. We're just kind of, if anything, we're whispering very, Then all of a sudden, Garrett tapped me. He said, and the cat was there. And they opened the little thing, and I looked out, and I looked down there, and there was the leopard sitting there under the tree. I've never seen a leopard in my entire life, and that was like a surreal feeling for me. It was I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. It was just weird.
Yeah, I always wanted to shoot a leopard.
It's and I honestly, you never say never. I've never had the desire to do the African thing. I think most of it was just because North America had so much that I hadn't seen that I felt like
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Yeah.
and that's not to say if someone if there was an opportunity like you had, I mean, you just jumped on an opportunity and you said, hey, why am I going to pass this up? And you
I don't even know why I said yeah, but I just said, yeah, I'll go.
Yeah, you were kind of like that with the moose trip we did too. You don't take too long to answer.
Kind of surprised you, didn't I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go.
But I don't ever see myself doing a trip like that, although I've heard nothing but great things about the experience. Anyone that goes over there, whether it's hunting or just on the safari to check it out, I wouldn't go now for sure, but with the political climate and everything the way it is, but it's just changed a lot. But I think it's just the sense of adventure, and I always, like when I was doing the seminars for the Alaska hunts and stuff, I always say, every sportsman, you owe it to yourself to at least try to make that trip to see something different. It's one day.
Yeah, it's when as a kid, when you're seeing all that on TV, you see the elephants and you see the lions, you see everything that you see on TV. Then you come out of your mosquito net, and everything's right in front of you, and it's a bizarre feeling.
I bet.
Yeah, it's kind of surreal. The elephants are amazing. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, they're fast. They're destructive. They blow trees over when they're running. They're just, it's funny watching them.
Well, we've been on for a while here.
Are we?
We're getting close, but
What's the scariest thing you ever hunted?
Me, I mean, I've never hunted dangerous game that you would call dangerous game. I mean, I've hunted black bears. Those aren't dangerous. Moose probably are the most dangerous thing.
Grizzly.
Yeah, Rick, you've hunted grizzly, right?
Yeah.
That's
gators. I hunted. I guess gators would be because I've killed some gators.
Yeah.
Black bear and grizzly probably kill you. I had a couple close black bear encounters with Kirk Rogers. So
yeah, grizzlies for coastal browns for me with a bow and arrow was the scariest. They're a dominant animal.
Yeah.
Oh, that's got to be incredible. I don't know that. I mean, I love archery hunting. Love it.
Yeah.
It's not in my wheelhouse to kill a brown bear with one, though. I mean, not right now, anyway.
I was there the year after that Timothy Treadwell got killed.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we flew out to Haines.
Wackadoodle.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They didn't like him out there. He was just kind of... And we brought our tents, and they flew us out, and me and my buddy Stewie said, we'll drop you guys off out this place called Turtle Rock. It was like 50 miles out in the bush. And the guy that we went with, his name was Ron. At the time, he's probably 70 years old, and he could fly a bush plane like nobody that I'd ever seen. He landed that plane, and I don't even know what we landed. It looked like an old beaver bog or something like that. And we spent 10 days out there with our stands and our bows hunting. We started off with cinnamon bear. Then we ended up with coastal browns. And we were going to tent down by the river. Then I walked down the river, and I saw those pie plate footprints in the river. I told Stewie, says, we're not staying here.
You get one?
I didn't get one that year. The following year I went back, and that's when I got one the following year, but I didn't get it with my bow. We were hunting the Chilchicook River basin, and the bears would come down out of the range, and they would feed on the salmon, chasing the salmon. That was a pretty cool sight, seeing that. And of course, in Alaska, you can hunt 24/7 from all 24.
Yeah, we did. Yeah,
and you hunt when the bears hunt. So they would come. The bears would come out at nighttime, and you're trying to shoot them at nighttime with optics with the black reticles.
This is a spring hunt.
This was a fall hunt, and that was tough hunting. So
how much darkness do you have in the fall? Much at all?
They're about like here.
Yeah, it's about like here.
Changes pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we one bear came down, and I took a shot. I said, this is just insane, because it's just crazy. And I really wanted to shoot with my bow. But they were so far out in the river chasing the fish around. So the next day, we went back in to camp. Then Ron's brother came out. His name was John, and he was, I think he was Indian. He had Indian blood in him, a full blown out Indian blood. He was a super nice guy. And it had snowed that night. He came up. He asked me if I wanted to go track a bear. I said, heck yeah, that sounds fun. So we had went on the other side of that river, and we found out where a bear come out, and we started tracking that bear. And I had packed my bow in my pack, and Stewie had his 416 Rigby, and John led the way, and we started tracking that bear up the mountain. And it was cool. It was quite well. Of course, you know what it's like tracking them things up those mountains in Alaska. We've been there. It's not that easy.
Straight up.
Yeah. So John says, typically what happens when they come out of the streams, they'll go to the first big bench, and they're going to be laying somewhere there. So let's hike up to that bench. We'll get to that bench, and from that point, we'll start looking around. So as we're going up there, that bear was doing, he'd stop and he'd peel out rocks, and he'd roll rocks out. And he was just lifting and moving them around, and I'm going, geez, he's got to be, it looks like he's feeding, right? And I asked John, is he feeding on stuff? Yeah, he's just trying to find stuff as he's going along. It says, that's so cool, kind of like a big buck would do before he goes to lay down. He's going to feed. So we get up to the bench, and it was quite a long bench. It was probably about a quarter of a mile long, maybe a little longer. So it was snow. It was still snowing out. I mean, I was soaking wet. All the snow was falling off the snows, and we're just kind of looking around, taking our time. Then the track started just kind of dissipating because the snow melted. It was too much, and I couldn't follow his tracks anymore. So John went over here. Stu was behind me, and I went over to the edge, and I looked down. And I looked down over the edge. About 65 yards, there was the bear laying on a log like this. Arm out like that, and I pulled back. I called Stu. He's right there, So we all came over, and there he was laying there. He was sound asleep, just laying there. And I told Stu, I says, dude, I don't think I can get him with a bow. It's too far. It's downhill. Downhill shots with a bow and arrow is not a good shot.
Right.
With all that brush and stuff in the way. I said, I only get 2 days left. I'm going to have to shoot him with that 416 Rigby. I've never shot a gun that big in my entire life, So
Most people haven't.
No. So Stewie said, okay. I said,
I need shoulder surgery.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll tell you what. I'll show you some pictures here. So I would just remember sitting standing in front of a stump, and I had the butt of the gun right there, and it was like that. It had the scope on it. And the only thing I can remember, and this is what they told me, when I touched that thing off, that gun come back and whacked me right between the eyes.
I was going to ask you if you had scope eye.
Knocked me clean out. I was out like a light, going over backwards. They said I rifled another shot in the chamber, and as I was falling backwards, I squeezed another round off up straight in the air, and I fell over,
shit.
And I was out like a light. So I come to.
That's muscle memory.
Yeah.
I said I was bleeding all over the place. I didn't know what the hell happened. I goes, holy shit. He goes, you all right? I goes, yeah. I goes, what happened? He goes, well, you got the bear. But I think your nose is broken. So my nose was way over here. And sure
Still
enough.
It
was. That's that big hump I got. So we end up going down there, and sure enough, I got the bear, but my nose is broken. So that night we go back into town, had a couple of drinks, and that night my brother-in-law was with me, so I went in the shower, and I just got under the cold shower and just reset my nose a little bit and stuck it back over. But by the time I got back, I had two
already healed in place.
I guess 2 big black eyes, a big.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
My wife says, "What happened to you?" I says, "You're not gonna believe it." Well, but I
a
am
good bear
getting
story.
Bear.
Yeah.
But they were definitely scary. Scariest thing I've ever hunted was coastal browns with a bow and arrow. Most definitely.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't get any worse than that.
Yeah. Well.
So in closing here, we just wanted to touch a little bit on a film we have coming out.
Yes.
I think Rick and Neil went over and spent a day with
Gary Williamson.
Yeah, Gary.
Yeah, Gary's our sponsor.
Yep.
And just to say a little bit about him, he's into real estate, so he buys and sells land over in western Maine, and which is a phenomenal area if you're any type of an outdoorsman. He's got a lot of land right near Sunday River Ski Resort with beautiful views. He showed us a ton of property, and he's got 4 sons that all work together. They're all carpenters. He took us around, showed us like 4 or 5 of the homes and camps they built. Again, beautiful. They do a phenomenal job. Just a great family all together. They're all hunters, fishermen, outdoorsmen. He just great all around people.
Well, I think I love it was Neil's kind of idea to come up with, in doing this stuff. You walk a fine line really with the whole sponsor thing.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. We don't want to be.
The last thing we want to do is turn into just nothing but commercializing and commercials and stuff. But it takes a lot of time to do everything we're doing, and it takes money to do everything. So there are going to be sponsors along the way, but Neil has this vision, and I think it's a great one. And is instead of kind of doing the same old, we want the people following and listening to get to know the sponsors and who they are and what they do.
Right.
And I think it's going to be a neat little film that
I do too.
That Neil puts out, kind of showcasing what Gary does. And
we constantly talk about the sponsors because, like you said, we don't want to, it's definitely a fine line, but hey, we got to pay for all this,
Yeah, I mean, it's. I think we're gonna get creative with things. It's something where we certainly wouldn't even consider doing anything with something we didn't believe in, and I know there was personal experiences and contacts with with Gary and all that too. So just going forward, it's something that we're trying to do different things and be better with, and so we hope that you like what we do.
Take for example the 3 of us. We all own our own businesses, and the money it costs us today to take the day off to come do this, which we love to do. But I mean, so we really
it's all time and effort and anything. We do it for fun. It's not here.
Yeah,
we enjoy doing it. And we enjoy sharing the lifestyle and everything. But that's just kind of a little synopsis of where we're at with the whole sponsorship thing. But
I think we just want to keep. We want it to feel right. That's the big thing. It's not feel like a corporate thing or anything like that. That's kind of the.
Yeah.
We don't want to be corporate.
We don't want to be corporate because we're doing this for fun. We love to do it. We love to see everybody's stuff. We want everybody to share everything, because it's not really about us. It's about everybody else.
Yeah, and it's been really awesome with the page, and it's growing all the time, and the growth we've seen, and I love it. I love seeing just the wide array of things that people are doing and what they're sharing, and it's a fun place to do it. So
the fishing stories and the fishing, the hunting, and there's a lot. I just saw a guy the other day who's posting. He went tenting out in the woods with his kids, and I read that story. I'm going, that's pretty cool,
Yeah.
Never saw that before.
Outdoors.
Right.
Now it's in the outdoors. It's like, share it.
And so along those lines, with we're going down to Huntstock. It's 8th,
August. 9th, and 10th.
Yep. And we're going to be down there camping out and having a good time. If you want to get your tickets early, If you use the promo code TTN, you'll get a 10% discount.
Yeah.
Pat and Pat have done a
Yep.
phenomenal job putting that together and growing it. And
Wicked good job.
we're looking forward to
Yeah.
to everyone coming down and joining
come
in on
down,
the fun.
come down, see us, and my favorite time at Huntstock is probably Saturday evening. We have a big bonfire and everybody's around telling deer stories and talking and having a few drinks and I don't know. Last year we were up till 3 a.m. I think, but just a good time, really good time meeting people you've never met before and all like-minded people. Everybody like-minded people telling stories and come down and see us.
Did you say
fun.
we're going to be sleeping in a tent?
Yep.
And am I going to be sleeping with Rick?
That's up to you and Rick.
It's possible. You're sleeping on the other end of the tent.
So,
Not that I don't trust you, but I'm just saying.
No, my wife don't even trust me.
but anyway, we're going fishing tonight, right?
Are
This
we?
afternoon, yeah.
Yeah, in my boat.
Yeah.
Oh, which boat?
He probably left the
The
banana.
Red
on it.
Devil?
Yeah, the keys are in it. You can go to Moosehead if you want.
Well, I don't know. We haven't named that one yet. We'll have to give it a name.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, what are we going to name that thing?
I don't know. I better talk to Nancy. It's
It's
her boat, too.
But anyway, that's all we got for today.
So anyway, till next time, folks, shoot straight.